I didn't want to have to make this video, but as is YouTube tradition, I've been left with no choice. Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Thaf, and if you don't know who I am, I'm the guy that takes 34 years to make a video on why horror games are pretty cool actually. You're currently on my second channel. If you want to watch those videos, you could binge them right after this. But I'm coming to you guys with some bad news and a bit of a story. To make a long story short, I haven't been paid by my YouTube network, and like a couple of other YouTubers, have been strung along for months at this point waiting for a clear line of communication that I'm not getting. I'm sure some of you who are aware of the situation have seen the CoffeeZilla tweet giving you guys a SparkNotes version of what's going on. But essentially, my YouTube network, Omnia Media, hasn't been paying content creators what they're owed all of a sudden, and everyone's been kind of confused as to what's going on. YouTube veterans are probably going to scoff at this statement. It seems to be a tale as old as time. An MCN screwing over its creators for no good reason? Never heard that one before. But for those of you guys watching this video or reacting to it and not sure about what MCNs are, allow me to tell you a story. Several stories, in fact, about the letter M. So an MCN stands for a multi-channel network. Basically, it's a company that works with platforms such as, in this case, YouTube, to offer services to YouTubers in exchange for ad revenue. This could extend to things like brand deals, promotions, content ID, and even more services that could help the YouTuber. See, back then, monetization on YouTube was kind of in its infancy. People didn't really understand the whole shebang about AdSense, and some companies started to crop up that would allow content creators to start making money from their videos. In fact, one of the benefits for being a partnered YouTuber back in the day was the ability to actually have custom thumbnails for your videos. See, that kind of thing seems inconceivable now because thumbnails are an essential part of content creation. But back in the early days, even having things like custom channel banners were only possible if you were part of an MCN. If you look through the Wayback Machine at YouTube channels who were active back in 2012 before YouTube updated their layout, you'll notice that there are key differences between YouTube partners and YouTube affiliates, kind of like Twitch. The biggest difference is that instead of having to make your graphics on the side of the YouTube banner like everyone else, you're given space at the top of your YouTube channel to design whatever you want, and have custom code that you can click on that would lead you to a relevant site, such as a social media page, or if you're advertising a product, clicking on it would lead a viewer there. This was pretty bloody cool! Why did YouTube change this? Anyway, this was locked behind becoming a proper YouTube partner, and there were some companies that started to crop up that allowed people to do this. One of the most well-known companies goes by the name of Machinima. Machinima was a company that was founded in the year 2000 with the intent of allowing people to post animated productions created entirely within the confines of a video game, called Machinimas. They were a fairly large company for its type in its heyday, and at one point were among the most subscribed channels on the entire site. I think they peaked at 4th. Correct me if I'm wrong. They had multi-million-dollar investments from Google and Microsoft and a huge fan base, which they split across multiple channels and shows, including but not limited to Machinima Realm, Machinima Respawn, Inside Gaming, and Machinima Sport, among others. Why do I feel the need to mention this? It's because Machinima was seen as the MCN to join. 95% of the biggest gaming YouTubers on the entire platform were part of or got their big break from the Machinima network. If you were an avid Minecraft enjoyer back in 2012, you'll be hard-pressed to find a channel that didn't have the Machinima affiliation badge somewhere on their YouTube banner. You had content creators such as KSI and CNanners who were part of Machinima, and what they offered as a network included things like exposure. Machinima's main channel, like I said before, was one of the most subscribed channels on the entire site, so having your videos posted there was the 2012 equivalent of having MatPat talk about your latest and greatest analog horror series. If Machinima approved of your video, they'd have it posted to their channel. All they ask for is a cut of your ad revenue and for this to be added at the start of the video. You had animated series like Sonic for Hire, Wild Adventures, Sanity Not Included, RB and the Chief, and still the best live-action Halo adaptation out there to date. Not that it's a high bar! This was a good deal, wasn't it? Well, this became the first of many cautionary tales about YouTube networks and why they couldn't be trusted, because it turns out that things were not okay behind the scenes. And trust me, this sentiment will become very relevant later. Machinima used to host Machinimas. You know, like the name says it does. But in its quest to become seen as more legitimate in the gaming world, they started to add things like top 10 videos, news, and commentary videos, which essentially drowned out the hard work done by content creators to the point that some of them wanted to leave. But as young teenage YouTubers suddenly getting sent into the money, they found out the hard way that corporations are not your mate. The contracts that were offered were absolutely ghastly, including complete control of your ad revenue and sponsor money and total exclusive ownership of any content they make. This was an extreme red flag. So several YouTubers called Saul to try and get them out. Unfortunately for some, these contracts were a fully locked in contract, meaning that they could not leave for 7 years. Then a couple of really funny things happened. The Warner Brothers bought Machinima and made it part of a holding company that also owned Crunchyroll, Rooster Teeth, and Fullscreen, another MCN. Then Warner fired most of the staff. Then they got bought by AT&T in one of the worst acquisitions and bag fumbles of all time. Then AT&T went up and deleted the Machinima channel. And I don't mean they just closed the brand and stopped uploading. They nuked everything. Turns out uploading a gajillion videos to the channel over several years was too much for the multi-billion-dollar company to want to deal with copyright management, so they just went, fuck it, I'm out. Then Machinima died. From what I can recall, this was the first high-profile case of a multi-channel network committing shady acts behind the scenes, and is a good tone setter for the rest of the video. Another very large company that partnered YouTubers went by the name of Maker Studios. Now, I won't keep you guys for too long because I've got my own personal drama to get into. I'll keep this one as brief as I possibly can. Here goes. Maker Studios was founded in 2009 by several people including Kasim G and Philly D. It had 2 subsidiaries, one of which was for peasants to get their first big break in YouTube partnerships. That one was called RPM. The other one was the cooler one where all the big YouTube gaming stars were. That was called the Game Station. Then they changed it to Polaris. Polaris had YouTubers such as Markiplier and PewDiePie within its clutches. They were one of the first networks to have public beef with its creators. Ray William Johnson had a public battle with Maker Studios because they helped him produce Your Favorite Martian and Equals 3 in exchange for a huge cut of ad revenue, which they tried to force out of him. He never yielded, instead calling out the CEO for being a convicted felon, which turned out to actually be true. Anyway, Disney brought their big bags in and purchased the company in 2014. They produced Scare PewDiePie and the first 5 seasons of Epic Rap Battles of History, and then they died in 2019, just 4 months after the death of Machinima. Now, you may be seeing a pattern with large multi-channel networks using shady deals and mismanaging their money, especially after a large acquisition. And I certainly saw it. So as an aspiring YouTuber, I spent ages researching for the right network for my needs that would help me if I got into any major altercations with copyrights. All the large networks seem to be shady as hell, so I guess I'll just go for a smaller one. There's probably less creators, which means plenty of communication from top to bottom. What could possibly go wrong? One of my first ever videos that took off in my entire career was how terrible this company was. I don't think I need to explain anymore. The comments could do this for me. After a disastrous couple of years with a split of 60-40, I decided to get out and finally join Omnia Media through recommendations with other YouTubers at the time. Omnia Media was a network that was hard to get into because it housed some of the biggest YouTubers at the time, including the Sidemen. So I thought I was finally home. You could probably see where this is going. For the first couple of years, I can't even lie, it was awesome. I had communication with my lovely partner manager and contacts at YouTube that helped me with specific things such as getting verified and restoring my DDLC video after YouTube took it down with a community guideline strike. Using the dashboard was nice, easy, and payments came in on time at the end of the month. But then something changed. A couple of years back, Omnia Media got purchased by a large company which went by the name of Enthusiast Gaming. If you don't know who they are, don't worry, I didn't either. But apparently they are the owners of Luminosity Gaming, an esports company that used to house content creators such as XQC. But yet another large company acquiring a multi-channel network? Sounds like another recipe for disaster, you might think. Except this was a delayed time bomb because things were okay for a while. I had a decent split with my network at 95.5 and I got paid on time. But there were cracks beginning to show in the past year and a half. There was a point where my payment got delayed by a couple of days. I inquired about this privately and turned out that time was Google's fault for delaying the processing of the payment to the network. So I didn't really deep it that much. I ended up getting paid that week. But then things started to take a turn for the worse at the tail end of the year. In October, I made a series of tweets on my alt account which essentially outlined the situation. It had been 2 months since I'd received any form of payment from Omnia with absolutely no communication whatsoever, as my partner manager had left the company. Normally, the first thing that I do if something like this happens is to email corporate, who had a support email on my dashboard, so I did just that, only to get an email sent immediately afterwards saying that the email doesn't exist. So I thought to myself, this is it. This is the rug pull, isn't it? Here we go. Turned out the support email had a typo though, and they altered it without telling everyone, so crisis averted for a bit, I guess. I email support and get absolutely nothing back. But my former partner manager, bless him, gave me a contact on Discord to representatives who said they'd help me get my money. And they put me in contact with a new representative of the parent company of Omnia instead of Omnia themselves. He claimed that I'd received my payment by the absolute latest on the 23rd of October. Then afterwards, I'd receive all my payments on time. It was just due to organization changes and administrative processes falling through the cracks, apparently. So I waited. Almost 2 weeks later, and I still received nothing, which led me to make the tweet I ended up making while I was at Vegas for TwitchCon. It was essentially a cry for help as I just didn't have any in with my own network. I got a reply from my friend Wild Spartans, who I also met at TwitchCon, and he basically told me to leave because the company is broke. To that I replied, after I publicized my situation, they seemed very quick to communicate with me via email and Discord and sent me the money I was owed. Late. Now, at that blatant lack of caring for content creators, you'd think I should have left, right? And I probably should have, but there was one issue that gave me an irrational fear of leaving. In the case that you get unlinked from a network, I was worried that I'd get removed from the YouTube partner program and would have to apply again, which I could not afford to do at the time. So I stayed to see if the company had fixed itself and I would receive my payment on time. To make a long story short, they didn't. You wanna know how? I specifically didn't add my third VODs channel to my network and directly tied it into my AdSense account. Google guarantees you'll be sent payment for the prior month from the 21st to the 26th of that month. And for the entire time my third channel has been independent, I've been paid on time to my bank account. Even before this whole debacle, I was always paid by my network at the end of the month, and I received earnings reports for accounting purposes. Now I'm not even receiving that. The last payment I received from them was what should have been October's ad revenue. That was sent on December the 6th. This leads us to what's happening now. This parent company owes a lot of content creators a lot of money. I'm part of a group chat of several 100,000 to several million subscriber channels who have not received payment for ages. And it was from them that they told me I wouldn't even be getting the ad revenue from November until February. Apparently, it's in the contract to expect payment up to 45 days late. I've already explained my situation to YouTubers such as Mutaha and CoffeeZilla, who can hopefully do more investigating than I've done. But right now, I'm essentially making my videos for free. I've received no ad revenue from my main or second channel in a while, and other content creators are reporting they're owed 5 to 6 figures. We're all tired and confused. And what makes things even murkier is that we don't even know if they have the money or not. Because if you look at the stock price of Enthusiast Gaming, they've dropped 96% and are at rock bottom. But they somehow managed to sign a new Apex Legends team. I even checked the quote tweets of CoffeeZilla's post, and there's several YouTubers reporting late payment and former esports pros alleging that Luminosity didn't pay them. So now I'm kind of stuck. I'm not as big as the other YouTubers, so I don't even know if I have much of a voice. But this is partially the reason why there aren't many uploads on the main channel. None of my recent videos are sponsored at all. The last sponsored video I made was in 2019, and if you've seen my recent main channel video, you'll know that they do cost a lot to make. I won't say how much it cost exactly, but production of the FNAF video and the upcoming Baldi video has a 5-figure investment into it. And the first digit isn't 1. I haven't made my money back at all from the videos, but I'm glad that I've made them in the first place because the experience is more fun than anything. It's just extremely difficult to motivate myself to continue making the content as I put hundreds of hours into editing and animating to get nothing out of it because of the lack of communication from my network. This is why I stress now more than ever that my Patreon, my merch, and Twitch streams are very much a thing. I don't really know what else to say. Watching this video and spreading the word would mean a lot as it's very difficult to get my voice heard here. Maybe they're gonna come after me for making this video, but at this point, I'm tired, boss. I want to make this year a really good year, and to do that, I gotta deal with this glaring issue first. I think other YouTubers may be making videos about their experiences, and here's mine. And I thank you for watching this video. I'll be returning to Twitch on the 27th of January and continuing to upload as much as I can, as well as update my Patreon. If you'd like to support me, you don't have to, but I'll put links in the description if you like my content. But this is the end of the video. If you want a reason to support my content, I can think of a couple of reasons, and they're in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in another video.